will mention they're the fastest animal on the planet. Their cruising speed is 80 miles an hour flying, and they're known to dive at over 200 miles an hour. So it's just an amazing bird, and you can understand why the military and the airline industry are very interested in knowing how they can fly that fast, how they can be that efficient in the air. This falcon's name is Isis, and we believe that she is the daughter of Amelia. Amelia is a really famous peregrine falcon who lives on one of the ledges of the Travelers Insurance Building in Hartford, Connecticut. She's been there for many, many years, not far from the state capitol, and she's had a number of offspring. There have been web cameras on her now for years, and she's got quite a public fan club. So because this bird was found injured in Bushnell Park, which is just down the road from the insurance center and right down the hill from the Capitol building, we believe she probably was an offspring of Amelia, since she has had quite a few offspring that have stayed in the area. Isis was likely coming down for something like a pigeon on the edge of the park. This park has got traffic going all the way around and was hit by a car. And the car, when it hit her, struck her, broke her right wing. So luckily, someone was actually there who knew how to safely rescue a raptor. You do have to have the right equipment because of their talons, and you have to know how to rescue them safely because they try to defend themselves with their feet. And so this person safely rescued her and brought her to a veterinarian who knew how to take care of avian injuries, raptor injuries. So that wing was surgically repaired. She had an operation almost right away to repair the wing. But anytime you do repair bones, you always run the risk of the bones healing incorrectly or some scar tissue developing and then the bone not working correctly. And that's actually what happened to her. Despite the fact it was properly cared for and fixed, the bones froze together, and so she's never been able to use that right wing for flight. And without perfect flight, a peregrine falcon cannot live in the wild because they depend on their flight, their speed, their precision of flight in order to catch their food. They eat all birds. That's their diet, is exclusively other birds, and so they need to be able to both catch them on the ground and catch them in the air, which they sometimes will do. She's an amazing bird because she's built for speed. If you look at her feathers and how her wings come down to a tip, and they're very, you can tell how sleek they are, and her tail as well. Her chest feathers look like suede, and they actually up close look like suede too. Very, very fine and very sleek. No fluffiness like you'd see in an owl. The small owl you saw, a great horned owl, which is the large owl we have here in Maine, can only go 35 miles an hour in flight, compared to this bird, which can go 80 miles an hour, just cruising, never mind trying to pick up speed. If you notice, she has no feathers near her feet to drag her down, so that helps her with her speed. And because she goes so fast, the black around her eyes, much like a football player wears black around the eyes to prevent glare from the sun when they're moving into the sun, prevents this bird from being blinded by the sun when they're in flight and they're going towards the sun. You can see a couple small holes above her beak, and those are called baffles. That allows air to pass through when she's traveling at 80 plus miles an hour. And so everything about her is about speed. They've been studied, they've had radio transmitters, and they've had skydivers dive with them to try to understand what makes them so aerodynamically perfect. Normally this bird would not be found in Maine in the winter. It would migrate to Argentina in South America, or to Mexico in Central America. For the warmer climate in the winter, would not particularly want to be in this cold climate. And they've been known when they're migrating to South America to fly 1,000 miles over water without stopping. They will actually hunt in the air and eat on the way, like really the superb version of takeout. I guess I don't know what that is, but when they're in the air and they want to catch prey, they will dive. They will go into a dive. It's just called a stoop, where they'll tuck their wings in even more and dive. And what they'll do is they'll hit their prey with their chest, knock it out, and then grab it with their feet. So they can actually do that in flight and then just eat while they're still flying, which is what they'll do over water. So they can sustain those long trips without having to find a place to land. As many of you know, in the 1960s, when we had DDT, the pesticide, there were very few, if any, peregrine falcons, bald eagles, or ospreys east of the Mississippi. They all became essentially extinct. because that pesticide, which insects ate, was then eaten by smaller birds, and then this bird, the peregrine falcon, would eat the small bird, and they would ingest that pesticide. That pesticide also got into the water supply, so it went into the rivers and streams, went out into the ocean, and so fish consumed it, and then bald eagles and osprey, who ate the fish, also ingested the pesticide. The chemical didn't hurt the bird themselves, but what it did was it prevented, many of you are probably on calcium, as I am, and it prevented the eggshells from having a normal shell. The shell would be very, very thin because the calcium wasn't used properly, and so when the bird would lay on the eggs, it would break. So they couldn't produce any offspring, and over a period of years, you didn't see any of these anymore. Now, they're back in Maine. The bald eagles are really back in Maine. And the peregrine falcon, there are 23 nesting pairs on Mount Desert Island, and there's at least one pair in Portland, we understand. So they're back, they're watched very carefully. Bands are put on the babies here in Maine so that we can follow them and find out where they go. And there's great attention paid to this bird because there's just no bird like this anywhere. It's just amazing. They, in addition to their ability to fly, they have tremendous eyesight. So when you and I walk into this room, we pick up about 80 sights and sounds, what we see, what we hear. A falcon will pick up thousands of those sensations every second that they're exposed. So she's been doing education now for over a decade, and it's amazing how calm she is. Once she comes out of the box, takes a look around, sees who's here, what lights and colors are around. She actually does really well in adjusting to being this close to a human, considering she was once wild and free. So an amazing bird. Questions about the peregrine? She eats 1 quail a day. She's our most expensive bird. She has a very rich diet. And she's 1 quail a day. So we actually have found someone here in Maine who raises quail, and then they're humanely euthanized, and we freeze them, and then she eats 1 quail a day. She can't fly at all, so her aviary is built for her disability. So she has birch branches that go up to a high perch, and she has stumps graduated height so she can jump up. And because in the winter, you wouldn't find these birds here in New England in the winter, it's too cold. At night, she has an enclosure she can go into at night, and in the wintertime, there's a red reptile light that she sits under and keeps her warm at night in the winter. So at dusk, it comes on and goes back off at dawn. Looks like the red light district in her aviary. But she actually sits underneath that in the winter to stay warm, which she normally would expect to be in South America. So, yeah. So she's her beak above her beak there, and her feet are pretty yellow. She sometimes will also euthanize baby chicks, and this is an example of you are what you eat, because often what we eat will cause different colorations, and she actually has really bright yellow feet these days because she's recently had some baby chicks. Questions?
How old is she?
She's 11.
What's the natural age? In a while, how long?
How long would they live? I have to defer to Hope.
20. Yeah, if they're lucky.
I know captivity, often in captivity, as Hope says, the birds will live longer because the health benefits are good.
Yeah.
So they get fed every day and protected from predators. So.
Now, you spoke about rescue. What is the process?
Well, you have to know that they use their feet to defend themselves, so every rescuer does things a little bit differently, but you have to approach them in a way that you can actually grab their legs above their feet to be able to control their talons. And sometimes you use a blanket, sometimes when their head is covered for a few minutes, that causes them to come right down. And kind of depending on how injured a bird is, if they're really badly injured, they may not be able to try to defend themselves. But you don't know that, and they don't know you're trying to help them. So there are people that are trained. There are people that are trained to know how to rescue, and it's one of those things that the more you do it, the better you get at it. So it's the feet you have to be concerned about. And with peregrine falcons, you also have to worry a little bit about their beak because they do also can use their beak to defend themselves. They're not looking to come near humans, but I know here in Maine, when biodiversity in Gorham recently banded a number of peregrine babies, they had to wear helmets because the mother and father peregrines are very defensive of their children. They really will defend the nest for the children. And of course, these babies were taken, banded, and put right back in the nest, but the parents don't know that. So the people that were doing that very important work needed to be very careful and be very protective of themselves during the process. Any other questions about the peregrine falcon? I'm not going to walk around with her because it's crowded and she wouldn't understand being that close.